I'm going to share with you a story when learning to listen to my heart and my deep intuition actually saved my life. And thinking back to it now, I can definitely say my higher guides were involved. It was a cold winter night, and I just started my shift as a paramedic. And I'd been in school for many years studying to become a paramedic. I'd finally got a job in a small rural community where, I was grouped in with a bunch of other inexperienced paramedics. We got dispatched to a call for someone who was having suicidal thoughts. And it's actually a surprisingly common call that we went on as paramedics. Now, I was pretty new to this and I did not know very much about, situational awareness. And it didn't help that my partner had only had maybe 1 or 2 more months experience than me. So we're both going into this unsure of what to expect. We drove down a long dirt road and took a right off the road where we took another 15, 20, or even 30 minutes, quite a long time, driving down a side road. So by the time we got to the close to the scene of the call, we were pretty much in the middle of nowhere. We still had cell service, but I'm sure it would take a very long time to respond if anything ever happened to us. One of the typical things that the ambulance dispatch will do, especially on a suicidal call where someone's feeling a certain way, is they'll make sure the scene is safe. And usually, this information comes from the patient or people who are on the phone at the scene. And so, according to our dispatch, this scene was safe. The patient had no intentions of harming other people, didn't have any weapons or anything like that, or so he said. As we're driving down this dirt road, I start to get a feeling welling up inside of me. It didn't even come from my mind like you would have a thought or a consideration of what could happen, but it was actually a almost a whole body feeling that started coming up from kind of my solar plexus area up into my heart. It was a very heavy, weighty feeling. I didn't really know how to describe it at the time, but now thinking back, it almost feels like a kind of a stone pulling me, there was a very heavy aspect to it. We're getting closer to the scene. We're maybe, 10, 15 minutes away from our destination when I start to hear a voice. But the voice was not coming from, my own brain, from my own mind. It wasn't even coming from my own kind of thoughts. It almost felt like something else was speaking to me or advising me. Now, I had no idea what a guide was or what channeling was back then. I had literally no awareness, conscious awareness of these things. But the voice was telling me it's not safe. Turn back. It's not safe. Turn back. And I kept feeling and hearing this simultaneously. And at this point, it was too hard to ignore. And someone could call it intuition. I think intuition is definitely one way that our guides try to reach us is through the heart feeling. Often say when someone says they feel a certain way, their hand goes to their heart, and I think this is the communication method, the pathway for our guides to communicate with us, oftentimes through feeling. But at the time, anyway, I didn't know this, and I decided to call up our dispatch just based on, this heightened sense that I had. So they told us to stand by. We kind of parked off to the side of the dirt road, and not 10 minutes goes by when we see five cop cruisers speed by us, lights and sirens, and I think maybe even a few more after that, and we knew something was up. Now, when you're part of an ambulance service, and you can oftentimes listen to the radios of other services, be it firefighters or police, and we were able to tune to the radio channel of the RCMP or the police. So we were able to hear what was going on as these officers were approaching the scene. As they approached the scene, they cleared the scene safe in their terms to enter the home, and they found a man who was indeed, maybe not in the greatest mental state, and he had a shotgun on the table. What they found when they got to the house was a very aggravated man. Listening to the police radio, we were able to hear that the suspect was indeed armed and had some kind of a long gun, so it could be a shotgun or a rifle, on his table with some intent to cause harm for whoever may have come through that door. And luckily, it was police and they were able to secure the scene. From that day onwards, things had really changed for me. I did feel like I have to trust my intuition a lot more. There was almost like a bond that I'd created with this feeling. Now, something interesting you might want to know is the heart muscle is the only muscle in your body that's actually innervated with neurons. Neurons are those things in your brain that communicate together to actually create thoughts and patterns and beliefs and all this conscious awareness that we have. The heart muscle actually has these neurons innervated in them and is able to act like a receiver or transmitter of information, just like your mind is able to. This tells me that oftentimes our guides are trying to communicate with us through intuition. And they try and do this in the best way possible through feeling. It can be really challenging to decipher messages when they're coming through the mind, because the mind has already established certain filters to remove certain information and include certain information based on your perception of reality. When it comes to these very extreme life or death scenarios, perhaps your guides are really trying to connect with you and realizing that you may not have the awareness of their presence. The best way I feel they may try to communicate with you is through feeling. Luckily, I did rely on my intuition that night, or I don't know what kind of trouble me and my partner would have got ourselves into. This is a lesson for me and maybe possibly for you as well, to trust your intuition in certain scenarios, especially if you're getting those spidey senses coming up. You're getting that feeling in your heart. You may even have messages coming to you that you recognize as not being your own thoughts. Our higher guides are looking out for our best interest and will try to help us in whatever way possible. With that being said, friends, if you enjoyed this story or are enjoying this journey that I am also on, learning to channel, connecting with my higher guides, subscribe, click all the buttons down below, and we'll see you again next time. Peace.